School Automotive back again today, guys. So today I want to talk a little bit about whether it is possible to quote unquote beat the heat with our modern fuel. That's fuel with up to 10% ethanol in it. Enriched, it says, with 10% ethanol. So the reason I'm talking about this today is because rather recently I installed power steering on this car, which it's never had as long as I've had it, which is over 20 years now, and it is very nice to have. However, the very first day when it got somewhat warm outside, I took this thing up the road and just a nice easy cruise at 50 miles an hour. No real starting and stopping to talk about, so shouldn't have been doing anything crazy as far as heating up under the hood. But when I left my first destination, the car died at the first stop I came to. Almost wouldn't start. And then several times on the way home, the car just acted like it ran out of gas. And I had to put my foot all the way down on the gas pedal and put it in neutral and turn the starter with the key. And it got me home, but it was rough. And so at that point, I knew I had to do something. Obviously, adding this over here just took up a bunch of real estate. That's where my fuel filter used to be. It's up there now. We'll talk about that more here in a second. But that's where it used to be down there, and it was just getting way too heat soaked from everything being around it. So my goal was to run a return line to the fuel tank in order to keep the fuel flowing. That way it's not what you call a deadhead system. And in my opinion, that's one of the things that has caused carburetors, even new ones like this. You can see that's a fairly new, it might be 5 or 6 years old, Edelbrock AVS2 650. But even new carburetors like this get a bad rap these days. And I think almost all of it probably has to do with the fuel that we're trying to run these engines on. The fuel that we have today is nothing like the fuel that we used to have. And for those of you who've worked on cars a bunch, you know the smell has changed, and that stuff burns way worse than it used to if it gets on your skin or in your eyes or mouth. And the other thing is, the old fuel, you could like pour a little spot, just pretend like that oil spot's a spot of fuel that I just poured on there and walk away, and 30 or 40 minutes later you'd come back and there'd be a little bit of a oily residue, maybe even some fuel smell left on that. But with the modern gas we have now, 5 or 10 minutes and it is completely evaporated. And so if you think about it, the underhood temperature of a car is 200 to 220-ish degrees when it's real warm outside, and it's all the way warmed up. And so there's really no way that we could expect that fuel to function the way that the old fuel used to in a carbureted engine with a deadhead fuel system like this one. So I decided to go with the easiest and cheapest. And fortunately for me, there is a drain plug in this fuel tank. And so what I did is I got a barbed fitting that screws into the threads of the drain plug hole on the fuel tank. And I ran a 1/4-inch fuel line from this filter right here, this little guy. It goes all the way down underneath the car and back to the fuel tank. Ever since I installed this, I haven't had one vapor locking issue at all. I do know that the fuel is flowing through the return line. I can hear bubbles coming up in the tank after I turn it off after a little while of running. And so those are the bubbles from the fuel vaporizing in this hot line underneath the hood that were causing either the carburetor to push past the needle and seats and overflow and flood the engine, or all the fuel was just boiling out of the carburetor. And then it would be a hard start, and then it would be weird when it would start a little bit, and then you could drive for like 2 minutes, and then all of a sudden it'd get really bad and try and die and act like it was vapor locking, which is exactly what it was doing. So like I said, since I got this on here, I have not had an issue yet. I haven't driven it all that much. I did drive it about 20 miles today, and I'll probably be driving it about 12 more. I'm guessing I'm going to lunch here with my dad here in a little bit, so I'm going to see how it does. But so far so good. So the answer is yes, I think you can beat the heat. I mean, you can see this is insulation on this fuel line, and that's going to definitely be important to have all your fuel line insulated. Maybe not so much the return line, as long as you're not worried about it burning up or something. But I think it is possible to make these engines with a carburetor run the way they were intended on the modern fuel. You just need to change up the fuel system a little bit. The deadhead system, unfortunately, guys, I just don't think it's viable and would be reliable enough to bet on, if that makes any sense. So if any of y'all have a carbureted vehicle and you've been wondering for years probably at this point why all of a sudden your carbureted vehicle doesn't run like it used to, well, it probably has nothing to do with the carburetor or the vehicle. It has everything to do with the fuel that's going into it. And even the ethanol free fuel, it doesn't behave the same way the old gas did. And it's just overly expensive in my opinion. If you guys want to run that stuff, go for it. I don't. I put 85 in this with a little bit of stable 365. Yeah, that's what it's called. Stable 365 is the yellow stable. And it seems to do pretty well for me. Anyway, guys, if you have any experience, knowledge, secrets on this sort of stuff, be sure to leave them down in the comments for me. Like and subscribe for more.